Hey everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Tough. It's been a while. It's been a heck of a month. July has been brutal to me and my family. You can tell my voice is not quite back yet. It's been a long one, but I am back at it. And unfortunately, I was traveling to Texas to go help with a family emergency right when the Warcry set reached me. So like this brand new Warcry edition that came out, I had time to build exactly one tree, and then I had to bolt. So sadly, I didn't have anything prepared for today. Well, sort of. I did have a video prepared, but then I was told I can't share it. Anyway, that's details in the background. But it's been a while, and I've been really excited about this. And I have been reading through the rulebooks as I go, as much as I can. And so I just wanted to put this out there that I'm going to be building terrain and hanging out, just kind of getting myself used to being on camera again. Like I said, it's been almost a month. And just hang out with people and frankly remind myself why I love doing what I do. And so I'm going to be doing that with the downward cam. In the meantime, I have somewhere around here the Warcry rulebook. Feel free to ask me anything about it, because the truth is it really is a cool new addition. There are some things that raise my eyebrow here and there, but I'm sure it's going to be filled in later on. So let me go ahead and head over to the downward cam. We'll do that. We'll flick my light on so I can see what I'm doing. And yeah, okay. I was like, I got the core book right here. So we're good to go. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, go ahead and ask them. Let me just pop out my chat so I can see it a little better while I'm building. How's everybody been, and what's everybody working on? Vicious Obsidian. Hey, what up, dude? Hey. I'll set this to the side in case anybody asks anything. One thing I did want to point out, and I actually did this in my initial review that ultimately had to be scrapped, is, let me see, let me adjust the lights here. I wanted to point out, there we go, apologies for all the moving and shaking. Probably could have checked that before I started. The bone structures that are on all the terrain bits match the Thondia set really, really well. And just in terms of like their aesthetics, if you've ever seen, I feel like some terrain, when they were making the transition from like the old Necromunda stuff to now the modern Mechanicus style terrain, there was some that just didn't quite look like they fit together. These absolutely do. So that's actually a very exciting thing. I'm very happy about that. Let's see. Hope you're okay. I'm getting there. How many faction specific abilities are there in this edition? When you mean abilities, you mean like traditional abilities, not necessarily reactions. So what? There are abilities. So abilities changes faction to faction. Unfortunately, right now I can only talk about what's in this book, which is a real gut punch, and why I had to scrap my original review that I recorded before I left. So... oh, that's right. The individual dudes are not in that book. I'm sorry. That's in... please forgive all the noise. This is like the book that comes specifically with this set. It just has the information on the 2 warbands, so we can use those as an example. Okay, here we go. Yeah, this is about average, I would say. It's, Games Workshop has put me in one dilly of a pickle here. We're only going to talk about the stuff in this set. Roughly 6, that's about average. And then reaction, everybody has 1. There are 3 universal reactions that everyone can use, which is cool. But each faction gets their own unique reaction unto them. So honestly, if you remember old Warcry, I'm just talking around what I'm allowed to say. The abilities, the number of them did not change much, warband to warband. And then they all got an additional reaction. There we go. Let's see. Welcome back. Thank you, Josh. I'm still deep into building my Fire Slayers. Still hyped after your Path to Glory video on them. I know, yeah. I just want Warcry to take off in my area so bad. Because I want to be able to play Fire Slayers and play all those things without having to buy into an entire army. That sounds so arduous and miserable. One thing I will tell you about these trees, they're about 5,000 bits. Each one of these trees is essentially hollow, and you build a series of tubes, much like the internet, to put it together. So we're going to skip ahead to the one that I am starting. Let's see. I believe it was this one. Does that look right? E9. Do we have a 9 that looks like that? Okay, cool. Okay, so not too many things. No, actually, the amount of new stuff to learn and or remember is very, very minute. It really is more of a cleaning up of the various rules than it is like a reinvention of the game. It's a very far... I know like a lot of people's fears where it was like... what do they call it? Kill Team? Is that what it's called? Where they did a true overhaul and everything became just utterly useless. All the books and stuff you bought became true trash. And no, it's not quite that bad. Here we go, part number 9. Doesn't quite look like it does in the picture, but that's okay. Modern Tinder profile problems, I guess. There we go. Been working on Sacrosanct Anvils of the Heldenhammer and Cruel Boys. Nice, I like it. Patton, glad you're back. Thank you so much, buddy. Yes, I'm just going to wax poetically and hang out with y'all if you don't mind. My month has been crazy. We had a family member pass away. My car stolen. My car recovered. And then I was surrounded by police and pinned to the ground because they thought I was my own car thief. Because they didn't take it off of the stolen car registry. And, you know, it's just been a bit of a mess. I'll say that. It's just been a bit of a mess. So 13, 14, 15 is what we're looking for. Courser. Spread all across the sprue. And then we had to go down to Texas because it was my stepfather who passed away, who I was never particularly close to, but my mom's sad, so I was sad. And then helped her downsize into a new place in 105-degree heat, which is why my voice is all out. I don't think I'm actually sick. I think my wife and I just wore ourselves down to the nub. You do look like a hardened criminal. Yeah, that's me. The price, though. The price of this box, it depends. You know, with all these Games Workshop sets, I feel the same way. I kind of repeated myself a lot back when Necromunda, not the original set, but the secondary one with a lot of the standing terrain. I can't remember what it was called. But with that one, you know, a lot of people complained about the price as well, and rightfully so. I'm not going to justify it to anybody. What I will say is that if you're brand new, the amount of stuff you have to buy is ridiculous, and so the value of those sets, including this one, go up. Like, if you know you want these warbands and you want this terrain, it's the best set, like, in terms of your dollar, because you got your rule book, you got the cool little extra book with some background and stuff like that on your new warbands. Like, it's all there, the value is. If what you want deviates in any way from what is in the box, the value plummets in a free fall motion, which is what I tell everyone about every Games Workshop box, especially those two-player, like those 2 army boxes they always come out with now whenever they release battle tomes of like, if you want what's in there, it's the best deal in Warhammer. If you don't, it's the worst. Dark Uprising, thank you. Looking at the inside of the box, do you like it? The inside of the... You mean like the literal inside of the box? Like, what do you mean? Do I like the contents of the game? Because, like, I'll give you a yes there. That one I can answer very confidently. Yes, I actually... So a few things to note, since we're talking Warcry, we'll keep it topical. A few things to note that I really like about the set. One, it starts off with elevation mattering. I feel like in the initial set that launched, it really didn't. In Catacombs, it never was. So, like, when the first Warcry box came out, yeah, there were some buildings you can stand on top of, but that's different than saying that height matters. Because, yeah, it's a place your fighter can go, but, like, I don't know. I just didn't feel like there was enough ways to get up there. If you had a slow warband, there wasn't enough opportunities. Like, if you were playing the Brutes side of Ironjaws, good luck getting anywhere in 4 turns. Whereas this, because of the nature of platforms and how they detail out what is a platform and what's impassable, I find that it's pretty easy to go up, like, without the cost of any extra movement. What the hell? You should be suing them. What is suing them gonna do at this point? I don't know. It's over. It's over. I'm grateful they got my car back. That's kind of my thing. I didn't get shot, didn't get tased, although I was pretty sure I was close to being tased. Live and let live. Thing is, it wasn't my local police that did it. It was another town who didn't know any of the situation, so I don't blame them. They had responded appropriately, but yeah, it just was. I just feel burned due to the first Kill Team 18 starter and the Warcry 2019 starter values. I mean, that's fair. Like I said, value is very much in the eye of the beholder. Like, big thank you to Games Workshop for sending me this, but would I buy it on my own? Probably. I like the warbands enough. I like the terrain enough. But, like, I don't know that I would have bought Catacombs. But I still thought it was a great set. Like, I talk highly of it, and I do think it was a cool concept for sure. It's just not something I know. I don't feel the need to fight in Dark Dungeons that much. But again, my point is that illustrates, you know, the values that I have in Boulder. Nice. Okay, so we go right there. Not too jazzed on these warbands. That's fair. I'm less jazzed on the Hashut ones, but I'm very excited about the Rottmire ones because I liked how the original warbands all like vaguely reminded you of a chaos god. You know, like, I mean, not directly, like none of them worship a chaos god per se. But just like they all had these vague, like, oh, I could see you're being twisted by blah, and you don't even know it. I didn't feel like there was a great one for Nurgle. And I do feel like that exists now. Oh boy, he just snapped right in there. I liked it. Alright, head down. I'll take the horns if I should. Maybe if I moved to your country and kickstart Warcry in the area. Yeah, if you want to travel to Nowhere, Iowa in the US of A. Hope you don't have an accent and they'll stick you out like a sore thumb. Let's see. Sprues, I mean, the terrain of the two warbands look really nice. Yeah, I mean, the sprues, one thing I will say about the sprues, the way it's all boxed up and stuff, is like each section of the instructions really is its own sprue, so that's kind of nice for the convenience of building. I don't feel like I'm constantly juggling sprues. Everything's pretty much really well contained. That's about the only thing build-wise I can really throw out there. Let's see. But let me ask this. So I've been kind of out of the loop with travel, family stuff, a lot of things going on. Who amongst us is excited for this new army box that has Tzeentch and what was the other faction in there? I can't recall. Let's see. 2, 3. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3. I actually have a box full of Tzeentch stuff. I was originally going to build it with Jack, and we were going to do Holy Havoc together. I'm not sure if that's still in the cards, though, between both of us. We got some expenses and family pain going on, so I'm not quite sure, but I do have a Tzeentch army in the making, and I'm excited about it. Lumineth, that's who it was, yes. Lumineth Part 9 Electric Boogaloo for them. I hope every Lumineth player is very excited for that awesome moment where you have more old unusable battle tomes than you do units in your entire army. Personally, I'm glad I checked out of them when I did. I was really excited at their first launch, and then I saw like the rules for army construction. I was like, I'm not a big fan of that. But I do like a lot of their models. They look quite nice. Arcane Cataclysm. There we go. Cataclysm. Yep. See, my thing is, I want all of the acolytes. I want acolytes to be so good. Like, Blight Kings are awesome, right? You can have good debates about their effectiveness versus a big block of Plague Bearers, but like at the end of the day, they're not a bad unit, you know? I mean, they're quite good, but what I'm saying is, even at its worst, that unit was still entertaining. Even if on the tabletop, you know, as points and metas change, sometimes it was a bit more advantageous to go with Plague Bearers or whatever. But the mortal arm of things should never be like a bad choice. Same way I feel about like all Khorne warriors stack up pretty well next to Bloodletters. You know, Bloodletters have their own thing going on, their own strengths, but they're not like crazy different. Whereas I feel like Tzeentch, it's like the demons are amazing. Also, there's a whole bunch of schmucks just hanging out with them. And you're like, well, hello, what's the topic today? Topic can be whatever you want it to be. I always have a standing rule that if anyone throws a coin in the tip jar, they get to choose the topic, but right now we were just talking about Arcane Cataclysm. Which is surprisingly hard for me to say, but we're talking about it because I am entertaining the idea of working on a Tzeentch army. Khorne warrior. Khorne needs a lot of things, man. I agree. Their demons aren't scary. Their mortals aren't scary. They just are, you know? And as much as I feel for that and can relate to it, they gotta be doing stuff on the table. Because as much as I love the Khorne mechanic of getting a blood tithe point when you die and being able to use that, like, I do think it's a very fun concept. I feel like a lot of times their units end up being like, well, you're taking him to die because you really want the blood tithe. Like, no, I'm buying a model. The model needs to do some cool stuff before it turns into a blood tithe point. How long do you spend taking Blood Reavers off the table before you realize this isn't fun? Let's see. Electman. The mortal arm of Disciples of Tzeentch shouldn't have over half its roster of troops be Zangor. I want my Tzeentch mortals to represent folly, not beastmen. Yeah, that's fair. I guess that's fair. I guess I hadn't really thought about that. Because I just think about like Arcanites to demons, not humans to Zangor within Arcanites. I'm not really opposed to the Zangor stuff. But I don't know. I just want them to play like they do in the stories. Like, when you read the Battle Tome, the sense you get is that, like, you know, Tzeentch will come to a town, corrupt all these very important smart people, and then one day there's, like, almost this Gene Stealer cult-like revolution where everybody dons their masks and they usurp everything and tear it all down, and now there's a magical society in charge, which is, like, a really cool story. There's no way to do like a surprise, you know, cultist type thing on the tabletop with them, which I always thought was so strange. Because it's like literally written into their story. Hot take, Zangor should be Beast of Chaos exclusive. Ooh. I respect the hotness of your take and disagree, but that's rad. I'm cool with the Zangor being involved just because, like, every other unit that's represented is supposed to be a Poindexter, like a nerd who's just got way too much power. Let's see. Slaves to Darkness is going to be exciting. The Legion of the First Print seemed poised to be able to bring mortals in more than one spell. Oh, I haven't heard any of those rumors. Are those things from the community side, or is that just what people are quote unquote saying? I forgot to get my normal plastic glue, so I'm using this super glue, and I am really just not digging it. Might have to move to painting something here pretty soon, because it's just making a mess. I usually use this stuff for terrain, like big pieces, but the intricate little things here on this Gur stuff, I think, would be better suited for something else. Okay, just grab 8, 10, 8. I saw the Legion of the First Prince played in person at Vault Wars. An awesome gentleman brought it. and he did exceptionally well. He got best chaos, and he was stoked because it is a highly tactical game for him. A lot of like rules, interactions, and how things stack. It's like a big, I don't know, puzzle or whatever, I guess is probably the easiest way to say it. And I'm so happy for him. Also, not how I enjoy Warhammer. He had a game where he basically like just didn't lose a single guy. I was like, well, that's not, I don't know. In my head, I'm happy for him. It's not the kind of Warhammer I like. I like when armies clash and there's all kinds of brutal combat and all these kinds of things, and you're losing objectives and you're gaining them and stuff like that. It's not so much the cerebral game of moving the army for me, which, you know, I understand that that is for him, and that's so cool, but it just never, people are like, oh my god, Legion of the First Prince is awesome. I'm like, I don't see it, but to each their own. That's what I say about so much in life. Well, you seem to be enjoying it. Hey, I came together. That's pretty cool. Leagues from earlier in the summer and the new Bellacore Warband. Alright. Okay, so let's see, we got that done. Now we're gonna fill this skull with tree stumps for some reason. Get to. Okay. I like that. It's got a good footprint. Oh, this is the one that's gonna become like a fat, big square base. Okay. Nice. Well, I'll tell you what, because I don't have the kind of glue that I'm enjoying, this is making a huge mess. I'm going to put a pause on building. But we're going to keep the spirit of the Warcry Ask Me Anything going. I'm going to have my core rulebook here. And my Rot and Ruin books. And we're just going to go through, flip through, and see what makes these guys, or not necessarily these guys in terms of their warbands, but also just the edition unique. So, there's a few things I'm going to be covering here quite a bit when it comes to lore for Warcry, okay? Because they actually gave us more lore than I was expecting. I feel like I didn't get the set where it was like the Warpstone Refinery or whatever, but this has much more, I feel, than the Catacombs one did. If you're not familiar, essentially a Seraphon ship crashed into a forest in Gur, and it's just like warp twisting everything around it, and it's pretty cool sounding. Everyone's trying to get in there, steal a bunch of ancient artifacts from this ship, and that's the MacGuffin that brings all the warbands to the yard. We have some background on our various warbands that come included. All the Hashut dudes. Let's see. Now, let's check out the Rottmire Creed. Let's just talk about these warbands here, okay? I want to talk about warbands that come in this and the way that campaigns work, because that is radically different. And I think much more interesting. They kind of took the best parts of Warcry and AOS Path to Glory and kind of smushed them together. Am I going to do a lore video for the box? Yes, there's actually so much information here. I'm going to do several lore videos, not just for this box that has these two specific warbands, but also like the region. There's a lot of regional information, which is actually very useful for everyone learning about Gur in AOS 3.0, not just Warcry. So yes, absolutely. So even if Warcry is not your jam, there's still a lot of info to... Oh no! Don't do it. Ah, almost overflowed my drink, but we're good. Saved it. Okay. So here we go, Rottmire Creed. Let's take a look at the warriors first, just to kind of get some context for these abilities. First of all, not a lot of movement here. Generally speed 4, which looks like, yeah, across the board they all are. Toughness 3 and 4 because they're basic dudes. No one with a particularly large wound pool, which is typical of the other Nurgle warbands. So that's kind of interesting. What they do make up for, and they tend to have higher hit and crit. So rather than most fighters being 1 and 3, a lot of these guys have 2 and 5 or 2 and 4, which is cool. Let's see, their reaction. So if you are just joining in on how Warcry has changed, okay, I'm just going to introduce the idea of reactions here to you. Every fighter has 2 actions they can do. If the enemy activates and meets whatever the reaction rules are that you have, you can then spend one of your actions to react. That way, when it becomes your turn again, you can still activate that fighter. They only have 1 action remaining, though. This can be circumvented a bit in the narrative play style, where as you earn glory, it used to be that glory would translate into rerolls. Now it's into additional actions or free reactions. So that's a really neat thing. So for example, let's go over these guys here. Bile Blood. The fighter can make this reaction when they are targeted by a melee attack action. So it's your opponent's turn. They use a melee attack. You pick one of these guys. If you had a fighter that already activated and used both of his actions, he cannot make a reaction. Same thing. Yeah, so it tends to incentivize you to kind of activate your backline field guys first, in a weird way. Not all of them, but some of them. Let's see. After the damage is totaled, but before it's allocated to this fighter, roll a dice for each critical hit scored from that attack for each 3 up. Allocate 3 damage to the fighter that made the attack. So, yep, they're going to roll their attack rolls just as normal, and now you're going to be like, oh, there's 2 crits in there? Cool. I'm going to roll 2 dice. For each 3 up, you take more damage back. So, this is more of like spurting blood type thing. Yeah, Bile Blood's the name of the thing, but that's what they're going for, is like, you hit me, but if you hit me so hard that it spurts blood, it's bad for you, or at least potentially. Which, given how many cheap troops they can throw out there compared to like the Blight Kings, a 65-point guy who can just run forward and die, it's not terrible, right? Just use him as his own meat shield. He's just burning up the enemy before they get to your more important dudes. As far as their all abilities though, something every one of them can do. Gruesome Harvest. A fighter can use this ability only if an enemy fighter has been taken down by a melee attack action made by them this activation. This fighter now has a potent vial until the end of the battle. While the fighter has a potent vial, when they use an ability, the value of this ability is treated as being 6. Interesting. Okay. So, I don't know how I feel about that one. I don't know how I feel about it because it's a lot of bookkeeping, but it is a good thing. So if you strike somebody down and you choose to use a double, that fighter who just killed somebody now can use 6s for all their abilities, which as we go through them, almost all of them have to do with the value of this ability. So like, that's terrific. It's just an extra step. And also if you're playing against something like, say, Stormcast, where there's not a lot of enemy bodies and they're high wounds, it's kind of a detriment. But it's a cool ability. I like it. I'm not going to go through all of these. What I'll just say is, with this and some more things that I have seen that I can't quite talk about, unfortunately, they really used a lot more of the existing design space without changing the rules. So using design space, like how many crits were rolled, is a thing that didn't really exist much before. But there's several factions that do that. What is it? Hurting people back for you. Sometimes reactions are simple things like movement. Yeah, there's a bunch of cool ones. Let's see. NATO Vision. So pre-orders from GW says ships from 8/13. What does that mean? I don't. You have to contact GW. I'm not sure. Does it include tokens for vials? Well, that would require me to move all these sprues of terrain here to get to the bottom. Give me a sec. Crap, of course you asked the most inconvenient question. Let's see. I'm not seeing any form of vial token. The way that they do a few things is, you see these little like half X's? That's to denote that you used one of your 2 actions. Come on. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything like that. Here's the flip side. It's just... unless it's right in front of me, I'm just not seeing it. But no, it doesn't seem that way. Those are the boards. Old Roy, oh boy. I like that. Do you think Chaos Orcs will come back? I mean, I'm not going to hold my breath. To be perfectly honest, I don't know. I think they're going to bring back whatever sells. I have never personally been around when there was Chaos Orcs, if I'm honest with you. Oh, okay, yeah, so I want to talk about campaign stuff. So campaigns, I think, is definitely where Warcry always shined. Okay, we're gonna hop, skip, and jump right past all of this. Open play. Match play, skip that. That's for nerds. Okay, narrative play. That was a joke. So no, like, man, there's no tokens for vials. So when you're going to do a narrative play setup, it used to be you build your warband, and then you would endeavor on like a campaign quest, and it would be a series of like 9 or so missions, and you would have convergences throughout those of like very specific kind of coordinated encounters against an opponent. My problem with that system was always, if me and a buddy at our game night, and this happened multiple times when I was in Seattle, if we both started our campaigns, we would inevitably reach a point where we both needed to do a convergence, and so one of us would have to take turns being the opponent and then not progressing that night. Then the problem gets magnified if the person who is completing their convergence campaign fails, because now they have to do it again, and it's like, what a cluster. So they actually did away with that, and now it's a system of more like Path to Glory, where you choose an active quest, but there's not necessarily like specific missions you have to do to achieve it. And yeah, so I know they've been mentioned, Chaos Orcs, in like 40k, that like Khorne has a planet with orcs that just have fun, but that's the extent I know. So you build your warband, you get a free 1,000 points. No allies or monsters or anything like that. You have to earn those later on. They have rules for being an underdog, so you get bonus stuff if you go to fight someone who's stronger than you, basically. Universal quests. This is kind of an odd thing to explain. Let me show you a picture here. So, you see this picture here of all these little, it's like a map almost. It's supposed to be, generally speaking, the Gnarl World. You have the outskirts. Your warband starts here. As you're playing, rather than moving your ticker across this like campaign map that the old version had, now you have to manage your home base. And that's kind of where the mini game for you as a player, without any opponents, comes into play. The games are actually functionally very, very similar to they were in the last edition. Reactions are really the only big inclusion, and then a tune-up to wording and rules and that kind of stuff. The encampment is really what changed about the narrative side of things. So you're not doing a linear track telling a specific story for 9 to 12 games. Instead, your warband is trying to exist within the Gnarlwood, and sometimes that requires relocating because nothing stays safe for long. You fight your battle, and then at certain parts of the aftermath sequence, you roll 2 dice. For each one, it kind of raises the threat level against you. If you have 1 die against you, nothing's wrong. It just means that the enemy now knows where you are. If you have 2, it means you're being actively besieged at your encampment site. And so you can either stay, and there's negative penalties for that, or you can find a new one. Your warband is hop, skipping, and jumping all around the Gnarlwood trying to survive, and then also go further into the maze to find the Seraphon ship. I like that idea because it takes the burden off of what you and your opponent have to do together, and then it makes it a bit more free form of like where you go. Each of these locations has their own benefits to your warband, and they could be things like increasing the points limit you can bring to a game. The highest one I see here is that you can bring 1,250 points, it looks like. That's cool. Yeah. In campaign battle, the points limit of your warband is determined by the location of their encampment. So before, you could only increase your points limit by doing like building structures or something like that. That's all gone. Now where you are will dictate how big your list can be, and I like that a lot. So the hidden drama is that you can have like a journal for your faction about who you lost, where you lost them, as they're moving from place to place, which actually, I just started rereading the Warcry Catacombs audiobook, and it's kind of the same thing. They talk about these people coming from various places, and that's exactly how they talk about it. So I was like, oh, that's a neat thing I didn't consider. And yeah, they each give you a bonus. Obviously, outskirts where you start, there's no bonus whatsoever, and that's general. You have to go do a quest to go find new locations, but I thought that was a really cool thing. Let's see. I do want to add here, the discovering new locations happens before finding out if your current one is surrounded or attacked. So you can know where things are, but you're not committing to them necessarily. So I like that. Everything else functions largely the same way. The recruitment of fighters, they have this whole section here of multiple quests. These are like the Path of Glory quests that you can go on for AOS. Here we're searching for treasures in the Gnarlwood, and here's your treasure list once you succeed at that. Hunt the Beast lets you add a monster to your warband. Secure a powerful ally. It's exactly what it sounds like. You can add a non-faction fighter to your warband list. Find new locations and explore the Gnarlwood. And then there's some of them that are ongoing, meaning they don't have an endpoint, where this one is you just gain extra glory for killing fighters. So if you're just trying to earn money to be able to buy new stuff, that's a great one to do. Yeah, here's your rules for fighting beasts. And then there are sections for each one of them specifically. So here's chaos quests. Order, let's see. What are the order ones? I'm curious. Establish trade route. That's kind of a cool thing. Yeah, and then it gives you a specific mission to play. I like it. All that to say, I think it's a lot more of a free form. And then they also have this concept called campaign arcs. Okay, this is additional narrative frameworks. If you're someone who doesn't care for like the just tracking where your soldiers are in the battlefield and you want to tell a very specific story, this is something you can do. Okay, I'm going to pause right here because I see a question. Electman, so how would adding a second leader model work in this system? Yeah, let's go check it out. Oh, wait, that's right. I forgot. It's not part of the core rules. The narrative play has its own thing for adding leaders. One thing I do add is that it does have instructions here on having a Warcry tournament, and I do like that quite a bit. Okay, creating a warband. The first step is to choose a faction for your warband. Okay, so your initial warband that you build, there must be one and only one fighter with the hero rune mark. So when you start, it's just one. And that hero gets to pick a heroic trait down here just to kind of separate them. And let's see. It does say here multiple times, if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, which I like. It's just ways to kind of remember things a little easier. Give me a second. I read it because I had that same question. And like, man, I know I read it. Where is it at? My understanding from memory, as I still look for the words, is that you can have up to 3 people with the hero rune mark. Manage your warband. Okay. Fighters with a hero rune mark, allies, thralls, and monsters can only be added to your warband after you've done the requisite quests. So you do have to do these quests to be able to add a hero. When you complete this ally, you can add one ally, thrall fighter, or fighter with the hero rune mark to your warband roster. You still have to spend glory to do so. Somewhere I know it said there's a maximum of 3 hero rune marks, and I just don't know where. But I'll find that. I'll find that for you, because then you can take them on quests to try to get them like heroic crap and upgrade them. Let's see. Yes, because I remember it tripped me up because I really wanted to start playing this with my bone splitters, and my knee-jerk reaction was like, oh, I actually have a friend painted me a whatever the Gloomspite Gets shaman that came out with Malign Portents is, with the big mushroom head. Oh, I want to ally him in, and so I had to figure this out. But you can do it. I believe it's... yeah. Earn renown, heroes and injuries. No. Yeah, heroes. Okay, wait, I found it. Okay, fighters with a hero rune mark gain an additional benefit from renown in the form of heroic traits. Once a fighter with the hero rune mark earns their first level of renown, they can gain a heroic trait too. They do not gain this heroic trait immediately. Instead, they must be earned by completing a relevant quest. Totally talked about that. And they keep it for forever even if they lose all their renown. Cool. The leader of your warband works a little differently. Your leader can gain a maximum of 3 heroic traits. They begin with 1 heroic trait automatically. Never mind, this isn't what I thought it was. Fungoid Cave Shaman, thank you. Is anyone else not working on their animosity reports? I had to dip out of animosity. There was just way too much going on. So my suggestions for this, having seen this without the ability to kind of like read it all to you verbatim, let's go through the aftermath here because I think you get a sense of what you need to do. 1, gain glory, just like you do in most games, right? What actually happened on the table, here's the resources you've earned. If you're doing the quest to gain glory, you gain 1 additional glory point for each enemy fighter you took out, so that could be a lot of points there. You suffer injuries. The chart looks very much the same from before. You earn renown. You roll for your fighters to see if they earn renown. Renown at this point now works like getting a free reaction, which I actually like in terms of how it shapes up on a table. Like, you know, they're becoming better fighters, so they're more reactive to what their opponents are doing. You further your quest, and then step 5 is what they started to change thing with sending fighters forth. This is what I was talking about earlier. When you embark on a quest, you take fighters from your roster, you designate them to go out into the Gnarlwood to go search for things. They could be looking for new locations. They could be trying to discover the tracks of great beasts that then you can hunt and add to your warband. So in most things, you're going to have your mission. You're going to send a couple of fighters out. It does risk them being injured, but generally speaking, it's going to be fine. And yeah, and you can always find new locations down here. I guess this is all one big table. It's a D66 chart. And that's basically how you progress things on your mission tracker. So your quest might be send up to 3 fighters out, and each of them roll a D6. That's how many quest points you get, that kind of thing. So having a lot of, shall we say, superfluous fighters on your roster to go get mangled by the woods is probably not a bad idea, which is going to hurt factions that are more elite in general. Same thing as before, you can find artifacts, and then it goes through the encampment thing we talked about. This is specifically for missions where you're trying to find a new location. And then from there, it kind of goes back to the normal stuff we've seen, where it's you take care of your warband. You can delete fighters at any time. To add them cost points. Here we go, warband roster limits up to 20 fighters, up to 3 heroes/allies, 3 in total, and 1 monster. So, yeah. Compare to your warband. Yep, got that. There's also a reputation thing, which, alright. It just kind of gives you... It's just trying to help you assess the relative strength of your list. And then encampment checks are what I was talking about. You roll 2 dice. If you roll a single one, nothing happens. If you have 2 ones, you become compromised. And when you're compromised, your army can only be 950 points max. And you no longer get the bonus to your encampment, which is a bad one. And then from there, you're just choosing quests. So I like it. Okay, that was all a detour because I was going to talk about campaign arcs before I left Man's question. Animosity got me into narrative. Can you make your own in Warcry? Yes, absolutely. I'll talk about that in a bit. So campaign arcs are very similar to what we've been doing. If you consider what we were just talking about as like free form, you can take your warband, go to anywhere, and as long as they're doing game nights, you can play and have a great time. You are the keeper of your own story, okay? Campaign arcs is if you and a buddy want to play together to tell a specific story. And I like that they kept those things separate, because I don't feel like Path to Glory and AOS has a strong storytelling element. It's a lot of freeform, but not so much of like a cohesive narrative. So you're going to pick a campaign arc. In this one, they give you the Path of Ventalex and the Chotek Valley. And they give you whole rules on how to play. Essentially, it's a series of games where there's other resources and campaign points that you're fighting over and for. It gives you a series of unique missions where you're trying to basically generate a specific story. And then same thing for the Chotek at the end of it. There are some special rules and a battle plan generator. So some of the special rules that are cool, like the Chotek one, if you find the Seraphon ship, there are savage Seraphon monsters that are feral without their slawn trying to kill you. That kind of stuff. I like it. I'm a sucker for anything like that. Let's see. Path of Ventalex is campaign arc for 2 players, which consists of 3 battles. Everyone's trying to take the treasure stashed within. In this campaign arc, each warband has a pool of resources they can bid in order to gain an advantage in battle. This is represented by a resource score that starts at 3. Each player makes a note of this on their warband roster. You play through the missions. Yeah, you're trying to earn campaign points and then use them to bid for who's gambling to have the best, bonus to their faction in game 1 versus game 2 versus game 3. So it's kind of this cool thing where you have all these cool points and you're either banking them up for a big round, hopefully, in your campaign, or using them throughout the game. During each battle, in addition to the bidding war that happens beforehand, you can use your campaign points in the following ways. You can gain 1 additional wild dice at a point, or you can have hidden scouts, which allows you to set up a fighter from reserve anywhere on the battlefield more than 5 inches from enemy fighters. Again, it's those resource points. You get a huge bonus for bidding high, but that takes away from your resource pool, whereas your opponent can then use their resources for all these other things. It's a cool little system that allows you to tell a specific story. So that is it for how these things work. I like them because they are 3 pages and they allow you to tell a one-on-one story with a friend. Isn't that nice? It's nice and contained. I'm actually thinking about making some of these campaign arcs for my Patreon supporters. If that's something you are interested in, please let me know. But it's definitely the kind of thing I could absolutely create. And I think could be a lot of fun. Especially, and to be honest, I think part of that endeavor would be bringing things from the old Warcry books forward and updating them for this. Because a lot of the stuff I really did enjoy from the old books. Now, we had a question here from that guy you know. Animosity got me into narrative. Can you make your own story in Warcry? Yes. Here's what you do. You get your warband, you come here to the narrative section, and you build a story for them. They have background generators and that kind of stuff across multiple books. Why is your warband here? What are they looking for? And who do they serve? Beyond that, the story is an ongoing one where every single battle, some of your fighters are raising in glory, they're getting injured over time. Some of them are going to have permadeath, because there is permadeath in this. It's not just injuries. And all these kinds of things. So, there is a story that happens over time, and you're welcome to tell it. And so, if you really put a strong narrative behind your leader model, everything like the universal quests and stuff is just them seeking more and more things to attain power. And I don't know, it depends on what your warband is. Like Stormcast have different motivations from Rottmire Creed, but yeah, there's just some cool stuff here. Let's see, adding a monster to your warband. Yeah, okay, here's the chaos ones. Let's see here. So let's see. Pick a fighter with a hero rune mark in your warband that can gain a heroic trait and note them in your quest log. While embarked on this quest, in step 4 of the campaign's aftermath sequence, you complete this quest if an enemy fighter with the hero rune mark was taken down in that battle by an attack made by the hero noted in your quest log. So he wants to be killing other heroes. That's kind of rad. That's a very chaos thing, isn't it? I don't know, but there's cool stuff here. I think obviously it's the core book. They're trying to reset the edition. So this core book, it truly is like the core rules from Warcry 1, along with a lot of the more important notes of the various Toma champions. So for example, the core rule book for the first Warcry didn't have an injury chart. That came with the Toma champions thing. And so they basically just smushed all those things together with mercenaries and monsters and allies and different ways to play and all that kind of stuff. They just kind of smushed it all together into a single book, which for the record, I do appreciate. Let's see, still a bajillion different icons in the game. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and hang it there. Does anybody have any questions regarding Warcry at the moment? I mean, regarding the core rules. I also have the Rotten Ruin or whatever it's called book. Yeah, these guys. In case anyone's curious, if you have questions, throw them out there. Please forgive me, I am just getting over what I think is a small cold. Beyond that, let's see. I'd contribute for some cool stuff. You convinced me to buy it just now. Oh, thank you. Does this book have rules and cards for order, destruction, and death? Never played, but I'm thinking of trying it out. Okay. So, I'm going to watch my words very carefully, and I'm just going to say this. This set contains rules for Warcry, the entire game, and these 2 warbands. If you would do me the patient honor of waiting a week, you will find all the rules you need for everybody else somewhere on the internet. That is all I can say. There's been a lot of trouble with manufacturing, I believe, and so I'll just leave it there. Just, if you like what you see, pre-order it, and everything else will follow freely into your inbox. Let's see. What are your overall thoughts on reactions? That's a great question. I think overall thoughts on reactions. So some of them are certainly more sexy than others. Overall, I really like the design space that they used, and I brought up an example before of the Rottmire Creed, like using how many your crits your opponent rolls against you to hurt them potentially. Like, that's something we just didn't have before. That's a use of design space, and I like that a lot. Other ones are some more simple things like free movement. I can't talk about the other ones a whole lot. There's some that you kind of scratch your head and you're like, okay, weird. And then others you're like, hell yeah, bro. So, yeah. Let's see. How did they change things up? How did they with reactions? So the way that reactions really change things up is a few different ways. So one is potentially throwing a wrench in your opponent's calculations of how much damage they are going to suffer. So like if I have 2 fighters, Mr. Caliban Green and Mr. Dawnstone, normally a situation would be Caliban Green moves, attacks Dawnstone, and damage ensues. Hopefully I can kill this guy, and if there's an objective there, now I claim it. The math gets changed with, for example, the Rottmire Creed thing, where now this guy moves, he attacks this fighter, but in doing so sustains enough damage to kill him. So there's a very real situation where both of these guys are now dead, which in a game of action economy is a significant change on the board. No matter how many little guys you might have, like say you're playing Gloomspite Kits, it doesn't actually matter. You're losing a whole lot of action economy by doing that. So that's one example. Another example might be free movement. There are rules in the game that now let you say, Mr. Caliban, he moves to engage and beat the crap out of Dawnstone. Mr. Dawnstone's reaction is to allow a friendly fighter near him a free movement. So now you change the math, not so much with damage, but if, you know, our Balthazar Gold buddy has to move into combat, which some of those do, now the math has changed because how much damage can Caliban Boy do to kill this guy? And even if he does, he hasn't cleaned all the enemies off the objective. So, like, it adds a depth of play that is quite interesting. And that's kind of, I mean, does that example track? Like, when you have things like movement, or out of turn movement, extra attacks, things like that, they become very interesting. Let's check out the Horns of Hash one. I actually haven't really looked at those. Horns of Hash. A fighter can make this reaction when an enemy fighter finishes a move action within 3 inches of them. roll a dice. If the dice roll is equal to or greater than that enemy fighter's toughness characteristic, allocate 3 damage points to that fighter, and subtract 1 from the strength characteristic of melee attack actions made by that enemy till the end of the battle round. So you see, that one would be a great one if you had a whole bunch of cheap dudes. Let's say these are all Horns of Hashut nobodies, right? And your enemy comes up, he's going to be represented by, of course, the Army Painter bottle to fight all the Games Workshop fighters. If he walks up there, if you have all your disposable guys, it doesn't matter how good they are. They can all use this reaction to make whoever is attacking them weaker. Actually, that's not true, is it? That is not true. I got confused because the Rottmire Creed reaction has the symbol for everybody, so everybody can use theirs. However, the Horns of Hashut, their reaction is only for their elite and up fighters. So their basic bro who's dirt cheap doesn't get it. That is interesting. So we gotta look out for that. But I mean, honestly, at 105 points, they're still doing really good. Like, if you have that same spread, an enemy fighter comes to you, not only are you potentially hurting them, but taking away 1 strength against a warband where they have easy access to toughness 4 and 5, makes it much harder for your opponent to be able to swing. And so, yeah. You might now want to attack someone who's already activated, where before that was pointless. Exactly. Yes, so what he's talking about is, before this, you would avoid fighting characters who have already activated because they're no longer a threat. They can't move to go do anything, they can't. But now, they're the only safe targets. So if your guy is limping, and you know, like, you're fighting the Rottmire Creed, where some of those crits might come back to hurt you, yeah, it makes total sense. Now you can have him go against someone who's already activated, there's no possibility of reactions, and the math pans out. That's a very good point. Thank you so much. From what you've seen so far, would you recommend this new addition to someone brand new to the hobby, or are there better options or games? Well, let me think about that. I still recommend Warcry a lot. So here's why I say I was not so much do I recommend it. I do. This is actually a very cool set of models, or everything. The book, the set, terrain, all of it. Fantastic if you're looking to get into a game. Highly recommend, 10 out of 10. I paused because I was trying to think of other skirmish level games. And the thing is, because it's Games Workshop, this is likely going to have more support than other game systems have. Price point wise, if you like these warbands, this is the best deal. Straight up. Like, buying this, the Heart of Gur, is the best deal because you get the full table, all the cards, mission generation, campaign stuff. Like, you just get all of it. And Games Workshop has, because every army has at least 1 warband, in this case of Stormcast, they have like 3 or 4. You have plenty of things to choose from. You can dip your toe in very easily. So I do highly recommend it. There are different kinds of skirmish games depending on what you're looking for. Like Necromunda is one that I think edges more towards simulation of like moving, opening doors. There's a lot more stats and values. If that's what you're looking for, there's other ways to go. But in terms of a simple game that is easy to pick up and has a lot of depth, yeah, I'd still recommend. I mean, all they did was add more depth. It's still Warcry from before, just deeper. Could you ever read lore stories from the codexes like an audiobook? Because, dude, you got a golden boy. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I do sometimes read stories from battle tomes, like the little like snippet, like Tales from the Past type thing, but that's about it. That's about it. Games Workshop likes to have their own fancy readers. I'd love to see more bespoke Warcry units that aren't for Slaves to Darkness, like the K-Knight Shadowstalkers were awesome, but we haven't gotten anything like that for everybody else. It's true, yeah. They've been weirdly hesitant when it comes to those. Another thing to point out here is I don't know how all of this interacts with the latest Toma Champions that brings Warcry warbands. Not Warcry, Underworld's warbands into the game. None of the... Like, the way that faction room marks or whatever hasn't worked. It's just they aren't mentioned anywhere, so I don't know how that works. That might be an FAQ to send in. Who's Border Prince? Let's find out.
Space Dock stand down orders awaiting the rest of the squadron's final resupply.
Okay, I'll pull up that channel. I'll check it out. Thank you so much, old boy Ori. Let's see, what else? What else? There was something else I wanted to talk about. I think, was it terrain? Maybe it was terrain. Oh, yeah, it was terrain. Okay. So, now the Warcry stuff. Something that they added new with this terrain, and this is new to me because, like I said, I did not get the oil or warpstone refinery set. So this might have been in there and I just didn't know it. Forgive me if it is. But they started attaching specific icons to terrain sets, which is nice for keeping track of what you need to build specific tables. So like if a thing has the gnarlwood plus whatever the icon is for like the initial Warcry building set, you'll know it requires both of them, kind of a thing. Just simplifies. But this right here, the Watchtower's Warhorn, is a specific item on terrain piece that now has optional rules. Before, terrain just kind of existed. You know, it's just impassable, you can climb over it, it blocks line of sight, that's about it. But now we're creating items to use. So I mentioned Necromunda before. Necromunda has terminals and computers. You can walk up to them and hack into them if you know how. Doors you can open, that kind of thing. Same deal. So if you have the Warhorn on the table, you get this cool special rule. It basically gives you access to new abilities. This one is a triple. It's called Sound the Alarm. You roll a number of dice equal to the value of this ability for each 4-up. You can pick one fighter from your warband that's in reserve and put them on the battlefield 3 inches horizontally from their deployment point as normal. So you can bring in reinforcements early by sounding the alarm. Which, like, that kind of stuff I'm here for, right? I want more of that. Just give me a whole, like, I don't know, one of those, like, $30 box of, like, was it like $35 or $40 for a specific warband? Like the old school one, it was just like 10 dudes. Just that, of just random items. I would love that. Can you imagine how cool that would be? Just things to interact with, introduce new abilities, diversify the table. Bridges pretty much work the same from Catacombs, with the fun exception that you can cut the rope. So if your guy goes across, he can cut the rope and the bridge will fall down behind him. I like that. The gnarl oaks, the trees themselves, don't really have any specific rules, but I do like that they took this picture and they walk you through what is impassable and what is a platform. So like there's nothing weird where your guy's just going to jump to the top of a tree. He has to go up the platforms. Yeah, let's see. Rib cages are deadly. Yeah. Cool. That's all I had for that. All in all, I'm very excited. I'm going to build a board for it, which it's also going to function as my display board for my orc army, which is set in Gur, so it'll all work. So the terrain will match, the orcs will match, all that kind of stuff. So I'm very excited about doing that. And I hope to do some more battle reports here. I did a few a while ago, like narrative style, where rather than showing every die roll, I kind of just breezed through the story, and people seemed to really enjoy that because it made it about 15 minutes long, which was nice. Let's see. Disappointed in the lack of dwarves from the Hashut models, and that's about all I got to say about that. So, friends, I'm going to open it up here. Any last call for questions, Q&As that you would like to see answered about the newest Warcry edition? Like I said, I apologize. My voice is a little bit out of it. I'm getting over a rough month, but we'll be back at it. I'm excited to get into the lore of the location, because there's a lot to tackle when it comes to this new place that they created in Gur. Like, it's really cool. Essentially, it's a living forest, and then a Seraphon ship crash landed, but the engines that make a Seraphon ship internally have a nice lush jungle broke, and now it's like eking out, and so it's Gur mixed with like terraforming technology. It's just this weird thing. So very excited to jump into that. Obviously the warbands I'm going to talk about. Yeah. Who has better helmets? Stoneguard or the Horns of Hashut? I say the Horns of Hashut, in my opinion. They don't come out nearly as wide on their body, and they still look menacing. I'm glad you're doing better. Great to see you back. Do you have any info on the compendium coming up? No. That is the thing I have to dance around. Other than ask me next week. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and hop off here. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. It was good to get back in front of the camera. I missed y'all. Coolest people around. So I'll talk to you all very, very soon and catch you next time. Happy wargaming.